America's best days can still be ahead, and I want to lead us forward. Join me now in the Reid Revolution.
Hey, very good Monday morning to you. I'm John Reid. You're watching the Reid Revolution. I expected to be back in Richmond late last night, and it didn't work out that way. The snow and sleet and everything messed a lot of people up. Hope you're safe wherever you are. That's a great thing, though, is in bad weather, if you've still got electricity, you still got the internet, and you don't have to shovel out to go work, you can still work from home, right? Learned that during COVID. So maybe that's the great situation here, is that you get the day off. But it'd probably be a good thing. Right after you see this program, this would be the time to disconnect and reconnect with your family. Some of the best memories I've got of childhood are extended snow breaks. My dad was a school principal, so he often still had to go to the school to make sure that the idiot kids who would kick in the door and smash things occasionally did get to do that. And I would go with him. It was Robius Middle School over in Chesterfield, and it was really interesting to be at the school while the place was empty. But we would I'm trying to think. I don't know what the streets are like in Richmond right now. I assume they're still kind of messed up this morning, but maybe by the end of the day, they'll be in a better situation. We'll see if they cancel everything for Tuesday. I was supposed to be back in Richmond after my long journey last week, but I am coming to you from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, along with thousands of other people who found out that their flights, predictably, were canceled up and down the East Coast. So lots of folks stuck in Fort Lauderdale and Miami. At first, I thought it was going to be Miami. Then we wound up in Fort Lauderdale, and we're at this really, it's cute Airbnb with a swimming pool and everything. But since I am committed to doing this program every day, I'm not in the swimming pool. And it's a really cute little swimming pool out here, in-ground swimming pool that looks like it would be perfect to start your day. But instead, we will start the day with the Reid Revolution and all the stuff that's going on, and hope that everybody is safe back home. My understanding is a lot of stuff is canceled for tonight, and that's extensive from South Carolina all the way up to New York. I was supposed to speak at an Eagle Scout ceremony for one of my dear friends from elementary school. His son is becoming an Eagle Scout, and the big ceremony was planned for tonight, but I guess they're going to have to move that. So lots of adjustments that we're making here. But the drama rolls on after the shooting this weekend. It's what everybody's talking about. So I hate that that's such a negative story. And the death of this 37-year-old intensive care unit nurse, who's now, they're going to be building statues to him. And I'm just trying to think of all the things that I have been passionate about in my life over the years. Things that I have signed petitions for, or that I've spoken out on television and radio, or just in my personal life. There have been a lot of issues over the years that I've been angry about. I mean, Elian Gonzalez, the essentially kidnapping of Elian Gonzalez by Janet Reno and Bill Clinton, that had me outraged. Anybody remembers whatever year that was? I was anchoring the news at the ABC station in Richmond, and I was outraged that we would send a child who essentially escaped slavery back to
1999.
Slavery. Was it 1999?
1999. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, we took a kid whose mother sacrificed her life to escape communist slavery, and he was with a family that, by all accounts, was big and broad and loved him and wanted to support him in the United States. And it was one of the times I realized Democrats don't have a reaction to communism that's based in reality. They still flirt and love it. They flirt with it. They love it. To them, this is a legitimate form of government. If you were to take a little black kid who had escaped a plantation in the South, prior to the Civil War, and you were an abolitionist, and you saw that little black kid return to the plantation owner, you'd be outraged by that, because you would recognize you're taking someone who is a moment of freedom, has escaped an oppressive system, and you're returning them to that oppressive system. But Democrats don't see communism that way. So when Elian Gonzalez, when his mother took him and escaped through the shark-infested waters and got to Florida, their reaction was, oh, he needs to go back to Cuba. And why were we appeasing Cuba? I mean, I'd let him stay in Florida just to upset the communists in Cuba. And then also to make sure that this kid grew up in freedom rather than oppression. Now, I mean, he's probably had a pretty cushy life, because the communists, the Castro family, and the successors to his power have made sure that he's been taken care of. And they always pointed to his dad as a reason to return him to the father, as if the father could say what the father really thought. I mein, I don't know. Is he a dyed-in-the-wool communist? I don't know. But I can tell you, if I'm stuck in a communist country with a gun pointed to my head, and I know what the consequences are of speaking up, I probably wouldn't be completely candid either, right? So that's what they did. This is the mild Democrats back in the late 90s, early 2000s. This isn't even the group that's existent today within the Democrat Party, which seems to have embraced communism and the concepts of communism, even though they don't want it labeled that way. They've embraced these elements and want to see the elements incorporated into our society. So fast forward to today, you have this 37-year-old nurse who is motivated enough to go out and not stand up for a kid who has been snatched from freedom and put in a slavery situation. You have a nurse who's motivated to do what? I mean, what are these people who are in the streets marching for? They're marching to protect illegal immigrants. I mean, I'm so sorry. If you think no human being is illegal, well, then you don't live in the real world. If I were to go back to Kuwait, where I lived, and overstay my visa, I would be there illegally, and I would be treated as such, and it wouldn't be very pleasant. Now, the best case scenario is they would drive my butt to the airport, put me on a plane, and tell me never to come back again. That would be the best case scenario. I guess other scenarios could play out. When I lived in Bahrain, same deal. When I traveled through the Emirates, when I traveled through the Middle East, through Asia, I mean, if you overstay your visa, you got a problem on your hands. And the best thing you can hope for, honestly, is to cut the jail time and be deported as fast as possible. That's what you would hope for, because you don't want to be stuck in those jails. Even if you've built an amazing family or business, you're gonna go. They're not gonna let you hang out there. The second you've been detected, you got a problem on your hands. So I don't know why there's this mindset by leftist Americans, and I think some people are sincere. They don't know how the rest of the world works. They think that somehow we're being brutal and vicious with people, and that there's a racist motivation for it. There's not. I mean, you overstay your visa. I don't care what color you are. I don't care what your background is. I don't care what language you speak. You got to go. We should have been doing this 30 years ago. These laws have been on the books since Reagan granted blanket amnesty. Everybody forgets that. My favorite president, Ronald Reagan, he was talked into offering blanket amnesty for everybody who was in the country illegally. And the deal was, let's hit the reset button. Let's restart. Let's not cause the drama that we're seeing today. Let's give everybody American citizenship, but you've got to secure the border, and we have to redo the immigration policies, because this is not functional. And it's going to look bad. It's going to be very disruptive to the lives of innocent people. relatively innocent people. So let's just give everybody amnesty. We can absorb them. It'll be all right. Reagan, being the good person that he was, and I can personally testify to that, and being the practical political person that he was, got talked into that by Republicans, by business leaders, and by Democrats, and they all betrayed the agreement. They didn't secure the border. They didn't redo the immigration laws. They weren't strict about who could come in. And inadvertently, Reagan got rolled. Reagan sent a message to people around the world inadvertently. Yeah, if you get here, they don't have the guts to throw you out. You know what? It's a better than 50-50 chance that you'll be able to stay here, and somehow it's all going to work out for you. And the problem is there is a capacity limit in the United States. I mean, I don't know, how can the Democrats talk about how tough things are and how affordability is such a big problem, and the rent is too damn high and food is too expensive, and these are major problems that have to be addressed legislatively, while also allowing more people to come in to the country, knowing that that strains the system and it makes it a competitive situation for the limited resources that we have in a country of abundance. I mean, it doesn't make sense if you pause to think about it, but there's no pause to think about it these days. It's an emotional reaction to something that I think none of us really like. I don't like what I'm seeing, but I also am mature enough and have lived enough and have traveled enough to know this is the only solution at this point to reset the table, unless we're going to give blanket amnesty to everybody, and then that just opens the door once again to millions of people coming to the country without documentation, assuming that eventually we'll fold and let them stay too. And at that point, the country doesn't resemble America, and the culture has been completely changed. So, you know, that great replacement theory that everybody reacts so badly about, oh my God, how could you talk about the great replacement theory? This is just totally bogus. It's not bogus. It's not bogus. This is a plan. And it's puzzling to me. It must be people who really despise the West and, quite frankly, really despise white people, that they are deliberately trying to dilute the cohesive nature of the cultures in the West. And all you got to do is spend about 30 minutes on the internet now. Thank goodness for the internet. And you can see very rabid, hostile people talking about how much they hate the West and how much they hate white people. You know, hate's not new. There are people who hate, you pick the group, they hate different people who are different from them. There are lots of different examples of that. But I think this has been a consistent movement over the last 20, 25 years. When I worked in the U.S. Senate, that was 20 years ago, right now. And I started to detect it then. And then when I worked in Midtown Manhattan, I really detected it. I was really surprised by the hostility from people who were living in Midtown Manhattan, where 9/11 largely transpired, where all those innocent people were killed, including foreigners, not just white Americans, but Black Americans, people from around the world murdered in Manhattan. There is a group of people who just hate the West and hate Western society, hate Christianity, and hate white people. And it's not my job to dissect all of the reasons that they may hate us. It is my job to stop them from destroying us. And I'll let the academics try to unravel all of the reasons. But, if I've got a limited time to try to save the country and Western society in what little way I can do it, I'm going to take that opportunity. And here's the bottom line. Here's the bottom line for all of us who claim to care about American society. The left wants it more than we do. It's clear. They've got an intensive care unit nurse who's 37 years old, who is leaving work and going out and getting into physical confrontations with law enforcement while carrying a gun. and carrying extra ammunition. There's a certain dedication in doing that. Why? What is it that is motivating that young man, relatively young man, to go do that? What is motivating these suburban moms to actually get in their vehicles and go drive around and try to disrupt law enforcement? Are they really devoted to protecting criminals? The people who have committed crime, who've skipped out on bail and who've been released by these Democrat judges all around the country, where they're committing crime overnight. Is that their motivation? No. I mean, they've been brainwashed to think that conservatives and Republicans and Trump supporters are evil. And they're willing, it seems, in mass, whether it's in Minneapolis, where you see large groups of people, but you see it in Seattle, you see it in Portland, you see it in Richmond. They're doing training tonight in Richmond online about how to disrupt ICE enforcement in Richmond. Can you believe that? Here it is, the No Kings mass call tonight at 8 o'clock Eastern time, 5 o'clock Pacific. And this is being shown and has been distributed to the radicals here in Richmond. So what do you think that's all about? I mean, this is an organized effort to disrupt stable society in Richmond. They want it more than we do. I mean, look at our guys won't even go to the school board to protect their own daughters from having naked men with erections in their gym locker rooms in high school, or the public bathroom up in Northern Virginia. I mean, that's uncomfortable. I don't want to talk about it. I mean, that's the attitude of our folks. I mean, everyone will text with each other, people who already agree with them, and complain and ask for God's intervention. And we just need to pray real hard. Yeah, you do need to pray real hard, but you also need to work real hard. I hate to be the one to break it to you. God is looking for you to do the responsible thing and save your own society, I think. I'll put my faith in God, but I feel like I got to work here to do what's right on the ground. And it appears to me that leftist radical Democrats, they get out to vote minimally. They've changed the rules so that they can vote, 45 days of voting, mail-in voting. I mean, now they're actually talking at the General Assembly about allowing you to vote from an internet device. I mean, okay. I mean, what was it? America's Got Talent, the national poll here, where we're going to pick who the next governor is, the next president is, or the next Board of Supervisors member on your cell phone in between stopping by Wendy's to get a big fat cheeseburger. I mean, is that where we are as a society? That's the priority that we place on this? Democrats are willing to fight over it. Our guys are not willing to fight. They're not even willing to fight rhetorically. Think about all the times. I'm not guilty of this very often, but then I'm out on a limb as it is. I mean, if bad things happen, I'm going to be in the first 10,000 people who are in trouble. So I'm already out there. There's no going back for me. But how many times have you thought, this really makes me mad. I'm upset that the school board has done this. And then you don't post anything about it. You read an article that you think makes sense, and you should, in your heart, you think you should share it and offer a comment like, this is troubling to me, but you don't do it. I mean, you're a reasonable person because you know what could come your way, and you know that you could be harassed, and there could be some consequences to it socially and financially, business-wise. In your neighborhood, there could be some consequences. But here's the big point. They want it more than we do, which means they're going to win. And our guys are very risk-averse and well-behaved. And we're the ones that are holding society together. But you got to be careful whether you're holding the society together and actually enabling the bad guys to take over and exploit your good behavior, your good demeanor, your faith in God, your commitment to stability is being used against you. I think that's what I'm witnessing here. And it's a problem. I will tell you, I was on a show a national show the other day, and one of the panelists said, Donald Trump should immediately stop all of this with ICE, and just let's get back to normal and just stop the ICE stuff. It's not worth it. And I thought about it. That's a reasonable thought to offer, because this is gross to see, and a lot of people are being hurt. The cops are. You see the guy with his finger bitten off by these radical whack jobs. I mean, one of the people bit the finger off of a ICE agent. This is insanity that this is happening. You see what's happening in the streets. It's insanity that this is happening. This is not civilization. This is chaos unfolding right in front of our eyes, and it's not acceptable. It's not okay. But the solution can't be to back up and allow the Antifa crazies to win. Like, oh my God, this is just too much for us. We're the ones who want stability. We want to enforce the law. We want to be fair. We would like for only Americans to be the ones who are employed. We want only Americans receiving the benefits that we all pay into. That seems reasonable. But we're going to give up. If we give up and pull out and allow these people to take over, it's game over for us, because they will win politically, and they will win in the streets, and they will know, as they learned in 2020, that all they got to do is raise hell and do harm, and the good people will back away. So you have to assert that you are correct. You have to assert that you are good. You have to be very clear what the rules are, and then you have to enforce the rules. That's what Donald Trump and the ICE crowd are doing right now. And it is awful, but it is correct. The rule of law has to be the standard here. And these aren't new rules that are imposed by some sort of tyrant. These are legitimate laws that have been on the books for a long time. And stepping back, like Trump did in 2020, if you remember, and I was on the radio at the time, like, why are we allowing this? Why are we allowing the chaos night after night after night, 100 nights in Richmond? I knew that the Democrats in Richmond were trying to get the statues taken down, and they were trying to create so much turmoil that could be shown to the suburbanites who live in relative peace, that the suburbanites would say, oh my God, enough. We're just going to vote for the Democrats, because then that will bring normalcy back. Do you see how you're being manipulated that way? You're being manipulated. You're being emotionally manipulated. Not unlike somebody who is abused. Oh, you raised your voice to me? Even if you're right, bam, I hit you in the face. Now you got to talk? You're going to shut up and do what I tell you to do. That's the attitude. We're being abused by radical leftists, and somebody's got to be strong enough to stand up and call it out. I'm willing to call it out, and I'm glad that we have at least elected officials in Washington who are willing to push back on it. And I need to be supportive of that, because these are not unreasonable or unjust directives. These are not unreasonable or unjust laws. And quite frankly, the deportation effort should be happening in the courtrooms and in the jails, where Democrat judges and mayors and sheriffs and Democrat-affiliated law enforcement will support the enforcement of the law. But they know exactly what they're doing. So don't fall for it. Don't be manipulated. Don't be taken advantage of. Don't let your good instincts, your kind heart, your commitment to Christianity, your commitment to American jurisprudence and freedom be used in a manipulative way where you wind up giving up the society that you're trying to preserve. It's noble. It's noble that you want to preserve the society by being an upstanding, decent person who avoids conflict. That is a noble place to be. It's just not going to work in this situation, unfortunately. I don't know what else you need to see to recognize that. And when these things are being organized in the suburbs of Richmond, Virginia, with a new governor who has basically given the signal to everyone that Virginia is a sanctuary state, this conflict, which Glenn Youngkin, the former governor, and his team was able to hold at bay for 4 years, is about to come roaring back. The dam is about to burst, and it's going to be, I think, right here in our backyard. It'll certainly be in the city of Richmond, where radical Democrats have run things for decades. And I think it's likely to be in counties like the one that I live in Henrico, which has now been overtaken by left of center, if not radical left of center Democrats in authority. We got a problem on our hands, and it's time to think of how we're going to address that in a responsible way that doesn't give up the society. It's a big problem. All right, we're going to play a couple of clips, and then I've got Andy Bernstein coming on, because I figured with the snowstorm, what a great opportunity to talk about climate change. But it was a busy weekend, as you can imagine, on some of the television programs. Let's hear from the police chief in Minnesota. This is this guy, Brian O'Hara, who really, I mean, I don't, you know, the problem is if you're a cop and you're in police leadership, you're in many ways subject to the authority of the political leaders. You should be. You should take direction, but everybody should be committed to the rule of law. And that's, you know, I hate to beat up on a police chief because I don't know this guy. I don't know where his heart really is. But watch this. I mean, to me, this is kind of a disqualifier. But this is the police chief in Minneapolis kind of responding to the killing of this NICU nurse last week.
From what you have seen in the public space and heard from federal officials, is there any evidence that you know of that Preddy was assaulting the federal officers as the Border Patrol chief claims?
There are serious questions that are being raised, and I think the greater issue is, even if there is an investigation that ultimately proves that at the time of the shooting it was legally justified, I don't think that even matters at this point, because there is so much outrage and concern around what is happening in the city.
I mean, do you hear that? I would follow up with him and give him a chance to fix that, because I hope I don't understand it the way he's expressed it. You have a police chief saying that the mob mentality is basically the final arbiter of what's right and wrong. Am I being unreasonable with that synopsis of what he just said? Even if the investigation determines that it was legally justified, and they do determine that this gun we've seen pictures of was on him, and we've seen the video, it wasn't like he was standing on the street corner filming on the side. I mean, he was engaged in a scuffle with the cops. I don't know about you. You know, back in my drinking days, I was around as in my 20s. I was in New Orleans, and there were cops. Hey, get the hell out of here! Move on this side of the street. And people don't respond well to that. I always responded like, "Oh, I'm moving to the other side of the street because I don't need this problem. I came here to have a good time, not to get into a fight with a cop." Certainly not a cop in New Orleans back in the 80s, early 90s. I can tell you that. So it's not like this guy was standing off to the side. It's not like he was minding his own business. It's not like he was just monitoring the situation. He was actively engaged in a scuffle with the cops. And I would ask you, what do you think the cops are supposed to do? Just continually say, "Excuse me, sir, please move. Excuse me, sir, please move." I mean, did anything about the video you saw this weekend indicate that that was the tone of the engagement on the street there? Sorry, it wasn't. So I don't know what you expect the cops to do. Retreat and allow this guy to take over? I don't think so. And the concept of a police chief saying that mob mentality, people are so outraged, it really doesn't matter what the final conclusion is. To me, that's a disqualifier. If that's your attitude, I concede that a lot of people are insanely angry and they no longer care about the rule of law. They just want their way. And those are the people that must be stopped. Like, I'm mad. I'm very angry about a lot of things that have happened. So, what? Do I get to go into the street on my own with a gun and start shooting at people? I don't think so. I don't think so. I think you would probably not approve of that, even though I'm very angry and outraged at a lot of stuff that's happening in Virginia, in California, in New York. If you want me to make the list, I got a lot of stuff I'm really ticked off about. And I think I think what's happening is a big threat to me personally and to the society I value. But I got to control myself and not allow that behavior to overtake my impulse control. And I would assume that reasonable people would demand that of me and of other people around me. And if the police chief can't do it, well, then he needs to go. That's insanity. Here's Senator Amy Klobuchar giving her response to what happened in Minneapolis.
Senator Klobuchar, just simply your reaction to what happened yesterday in Minneapolis.
It was simply horrific. This, as you've pointed out, an ICU nurse in the VA hospital in Minneapolis. That has got to be one of the most self-sacrificing jobs that anyone can have. An honorable job. He loved our veterans. He was with them in many times in the closing days of their lives. As his mom described him and Dad, he was a kind-hearted soul. And they've asked us to tell the truth about him. And what we saw of how he died should never happen to an American citizen.
I don't know him. And I assume, being a nurse, you got to have some empathy for the other people. Although it's been really weird in the medical community lately, how many horrible nurses have taken to social media and have indulged these fantasies of harming Republicans and Trump supporters. Have you noticed that? I mean, I'm a little concerned. If I wound up in the hospital, what kind of care would I get? I mean, one Google search away from the guy who ran for lieutenant governor, who is a Republican and who's conservative, who worked for Ronald Reagan, who worked for George Allen, who supported Trump. I mean, how many? I'm one Google search away from somebody injecting me with the wrong medicine, or failing to give me care, or neglecting to resuscitate me if something were to happen at the hospital. And I've thought that was kind of drilled into you, that you couldn't behave that way in the past if you were a doctor, if you were a nurse, if you were in medical care. The Hippocratic Oath meant something, that you heal people, you don't harm people, and you have to be clear-minded that you're going to help everybody. I mean, I'm just kind of puzzled by this. So I don't know this guy, but what would motivate him to go and get into a physical scuffle with cops while presumably he had a weapon on him? I would go the other direction, unless I thought I was in a revolutionary uprising and was going to kill everybody. And I think that's the mindset here. And we need to recognize that's kind of what's arrived in front of us, whether we want it to be that way or not. There's a percentage, and I don't know what it is, of people in our midst, in Richmond, in Minneapolis, in Washington, in New York, in LA, and I mean, even in the small towns, who want to do harm and are, in many cases, not just inching closer to the line of doing harm, but are crossing it. And I wish this guy was still alive so I could say, what the hell were you thinking? Do you see yourself as a revolutionary? And you're willing to sacrifice your life to protect illegal immigrants, the ones that we're rounding up, or the ones that have committed crimes? That is motivating you to do this? I mean, I would protect my family and I would protect the country, but that wouldn't motivate me to go sacrifice my life to protect illegal immigrants from deportation. I mean, we're not even talking about going to the gas chambers or something awful that we've seen in other parts of the world at other times. We're talking about deporting people. which is pretty standard practice around the world, not a human rights violation of any kind. So we need to sober up and wake up. This group has been groomed and brainwashed and pushed into this for a very, very long time. And it's going to be a problem for us. And what's a bigger problem is that with this as the landscape, people around the country are electing radicals and putting them in office. I hate to tell you this, 3 radicals were elected in Virginia to be governor, lieutenant governor, and attorney general. There's just no nice way of putting it. These are not mainstream people. Now, I try to be polite. I'm an old school Virginian, so when I was running my campaign, I tried to gently raise these issues without being totally bombastic or, a bomb thrower, and it wasn't trying to turn people off. But these are radicals. Ghazala Hashmi is an Islamic radical. I mean, it's just true. And the fact that she doesn't want to talk about it is insight into the fact that she's not willing to even defend herself from that, other than to impugn the people who call her out. Jay Jones got caught being a radical in his text messages, and Virginians didn't care because some Virginians hate Trump so much that that's all that mattered. And Abigail Spanberger, who started her political career harassing the sitting congressman whose job she then took, is very quickly proving not to be the moderate that she claimed to be. So, I'm hoping everybody's paying some attention and that there's going to be this wake-up moment. Here's one of the wake-up moments for the communists that they've elected in New York, Mamdani, on national television this weekend.
You've, like many other people, said you want to see ICE abolished. How would you enforce the immigration laws? Or do you think they shouldn't be enforced? I mean, how would you do it without immigration customs enforcement?
You do it with a little bit of humanity. Immigration existed long before ICE. ICE is a modern creation. I'm older than ICE. But
you've always had whatever you call it, you've had an organization to enforce those rules.
I would separate ICE from an organization that looks to enforce these rules. ICE is an organization that cares little for the rules. It's an organization that operates with reckless impunity and seems to revel in the flouting of those kinds of rules. And that's what gives people a real sense of fear. ICE agents are masked. You oftentimes have no idea. We even have seen instances in this country of people pretending to be ICE agents because they know that there's no identification. That's what we're talking about.
See, this guy's not a serious policy person, first of all. He's not a serious leader. He is a communist, and he's a smooth talker, though, and that's gotten him where he's arrived at as the mayor of New York. They're not rules. They're laws. They're federal laws. They are consistent with laws around the world. And for him to say he would enforce the rules with some humanity, that means nothing. Tell me what you would do. And the answer is you wouldn't enforce anything. You would allow everybody to stay, and you would turn this into a communist state. And I hate to say this, the only thing that probably saves us, maybe, is an economic collapse. God, that's terrible. But we're $39 trillion of debt. Have we actually crossed the line yet? I should look that up. We're coming up on $39 trillion in debt for the country. Something's going to happen. And everybody who has gotten very used to government sustenance is going to be in for a really rude awakening when there just isn't any money left. And this guy is not capable of leading us in a good direction, and he knows he's not, because the economic collapse can go one of two ways. We can cut everyone off, which is going to be horrible and painful, and there are going to be a lot of people who suffer, and we can rebuild without the social welfare infrastructure that we've all grown accustomed to. Not going to be nice, not going to be good, but might allow us to survive, or we're going to go full-fledged commie. And then we're in for another 50, 60, 70 years of absolute decline. And I've traveled around the world to the countries that have succumbed to that. They don't bounce back easily. Argentina's coming back slowly, but it ain't nice. It isn't pretty. And they've suffered for many, many decades. So just watch these people. that was a BS answer that's designed to make you feel good, but not actually deal with the problem. And it doesn't even address the problem. And that's happening in Virginia too. We just don't have a press corps that's getting in front of our elected officials the way the national press does with the mayor of New York and others. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Andy Bernstein is with us. With the snow, let's talk about the truth about climate change, because I'm sure we'll hear from everybody about how, oh, this is a sign that the planet is in trouble. I don't think so. We'll get Andy's take on it. And then Melania Trump has got a new movie out. I want to play a clip from that before we go on this Monday. You're watching The Reid Revolution. I've been texting with my family back in Richmond for days getting ready for this storm, and it sounds like it wasn't as bad as, well, it certainly wasn't as bad as what we predicted. What was the storm of the century? A week ago, we were going to have, 2 feet, 3 feet of snow, and then they scaled it back, and as we got closer to the actual storm, we're down to, 2 inches? What was it, about 2 inches? And then, some ice and things like that could bring down some power lines. So I'm worried about that today. And I got to get back to Richmond. I got too much going on where I can't luxuriate in southern Florida while everybody else suffers. I got to get back and deal with reality. But I'm already hearing some people say, this is what happens when you have an industrial society. You've destroyed the planet. And this storm is an example. This storm is an example of the destruction, the climate destruction of the planet? I don't think so. Go back and look at the black and white pictures that aren't AI generated, and you can see this is mild and not worse than what we've seen in the past. And Andy Bernstein has been talking about this, writing about this for many, many years. Joins us now. His book is called The Truth About Climate Change. Normally, when I talk to you, Andy, on the radio, we didn't have the visual here, so I'm glad to be able to see you, and thank you for moving up your time to join us today. What's your assessment of the storm of the century here in the last couple of days?
Well, I mean, first of all, John, thanks for having me on. It's always good to talk to you.
Of course.
Great. And second of all, that's ridiculous hyperbole. I mean, even when we were kids, we can remember. I mean, I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. People hear me talk, they think I'm from Alabama, but I'm not. But in New York, I've seen blizzards that were way more devastating than this. Much more snow. It's very cold, but I've seen now. But I've seen colder days in the past where it was down below zero. Much more snow at times, going back 50 years ago. But also, it's ridiculous to claim that man-made activities are warming the planet, and then the warming is causing blizzards. I mean, that's just completely illogical. If the planet was warming, we wouldn't have blizzards. Didn't Al Gore say in 1993 that by the year 2000, winter would be a thing of the past? You can't have it both ways. It's ridiculous over-exaggeration, to put it mildly. In fact, I think it's an outright lie.
I remember growing up in the 80s and listening to my parents saying that this was garbage. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, well, why is Time Magazine saying this? And why are the news people saying this? Maybe my parents just don't want to deal with reality. And I was very suspicious of their reflexive reaction of hostility towards these assertions that Al Gore, back then a U.S. Senator, was making. When I went to go work in the United States House of Representatives in 1992, Al Gore was giving a speech to all the interns that summer. And so I made a point to be in the room to hear what he was saying. I mean, kind of scares me. Was I on the verge of becoming a liberal if I hadn't been his grounded and I hope analytical as I was at the time. And I realized as he was talking, this is BS. This is all a hypothesis from a guy who I don't think knows what he's talking about. And I suspect it's all politically motivated. Is it all politically motivated, or is there something happening that we do need to be concerned about?
No, I think it's all. I think you're right. It's all politically motivated, and I think we should look at the facts. There are scientists who, the late great Tim Ball, the Canadian climate scientist for one, Fred Singer, who unfortunately died a while ago. There's my booklet. Fred Singer was a great climate scientist. You look at the books. Look, there is a natural climate cycle. There's no question about this. Nobody can deny it. We're in what they call the modern warm period today. Preceding that was what they call the Little Ice Age, roughly 1300 to 1800. Prior to the Little Ice Age was the medieval warm period, roughly 900 AD to 1300 AD. By the way, the medieval warm period, 1,000 years ago, was so warm that the Norse were able to settle Greenland, grow crops on Greenland, and even thought to name it Greenland, which nobody would do today. They name it White Land because it's all snow. Before the medieval warm period was the Dark Age cold period. Before that was the Roman warm period, back when Jesus was alive. And go all the way back 3,500 BC to 3,000 BC, the Minoan warm period. We know by various proxy data the Minoan warm period, thousands of years before human beings industrialized, was significantly warmer than it is today. So there's a natural climate cycle, and that's only going back to the last 3,500 years. You go back through geological time, John, and there's ice ages, and there's long before human beings ever appear in the fossil record. Millions of years before that, there was ice ages where the temperature dropped significantly and the ice advanced, and then the end of ice ages when the temperature rose dramatically and the ice melted. We're talking today about roughly what was it, like 1.5 degrees Celsius, if that, over the last 150 years. That's a very mild warming. It's well within the bounds of natural variation. It's ridiculous for us to be so hysterical about this. Besides which, warming is good. Crops grow, vegetation grows when it's warm, and also grows more fulsomely when carbon dioxide levels are higher in the atmosphere. We're greening the earth.
Are we inadvertently and artificially speeding up the cycle that you talk about? If you go back to 3,500 BC and then you fast forward to where we are today, are we artificially increasing that cycle? And is there a danger in that? I'll tell you, I deliberately waited 10 years waiting for someone who wanted to climb to the top of Mount Kilimanjaro with me in Africa, the highest peak in Africa. And everybody would be like, "Oh yeah, I'll next year, let's go do it." And then they wouldn't do it. So 10 years I waited. Finally, I said, "To hell with this. I'm going to go do it myself." And honestly, Andy, one of the reasons I did it was everyone said the snow at the top of Mount Kilimanjaro will be gone. And of course, it was supposed to be gone 5 or 6 years ago, and it's still there. But you can see that it's receded. And when I got to the top of Mount Kilimanjaro and I was exhausted and thought, "Oh my God, I can't walk one more step," I went over and put my hand on the glacier at the top of Kilimanjaro. And in my head, I was thinking, am I touching something that will not exist in another couple of years? Now, I haven't looked at a picture today, but I think it still exists, although it is receding. So are we doing some sort of damage or speeding this up and we just don't want to acknowledge it?
No, I don't think so. I think this is part of the Earth's natural climate cycle. The Earth is recovering from the Little Ice Age. Will the glacier on Mount Kilimanjaro be gone at some point? It's possible, but we do have a warming period, but it's natural. It's not man-made. This idea that human emissions of carbon dioxide is causing the warm period I think is very, very false. For example, Dr. Roy Spencer, a leading NASA scientist, estimates that at least formerly, he worked for NASA in the past, but at least 95% of the carbon dioxide spewed into the atmosphere today is from natural sources, not man-made sources. The late, great Dr. Tim Ball, Canadian climate scientist, estimated that more than 96% of it was from natural sources, not from human sources. We don't have that kind of power. Unfortunately, wish that we did, wish that we could control the climate. We don't have that kind of power. The forces of nature are vastly more powerful than the forces of man. And the nature's climate cycle is caused by variations in the sun's emission of radiation, the variations in the oscillations of Earth's ocean currents, by very powerful natural forces like that. So yeah, the glaciers might melt, but it's not being done by human beings. It's being done by natural forces, and forces that we can't control, and all that we can do is adapt to. But warming overall is a net gain. It's an enormous net gain because it greens the earth. It makes it much easier to grow crops, warming is beneficial. The cold periods of Earth's natural climate cycle are baneful to life.
Yeah. And Andy, you've cited a couple of other folks with scientific backgrounds, and I should probably ask you, because I didn't do this in the introduction. Tell me why we should give weight and credence to your assertions here over the people who are often trotted out in public spaces to give important speeches on this topic and universally say that we do have a crisis on our hand.
Right. Well, people will question me, and I understand, because my degree's in philosophy. I'm not a scientist of any kind, climate scientist or any other. But I can read, and scientists write books. They write books for us, the intelligent layman. I've done a lot of research on this topic. You showed my booklet, The Truth About Climate Change. Somebody can read it and look at the scientists and cited and the evidence that they cite. We know, for example, the sun cycles that there are times when it gives off more radiation, times when it gives off less, and the times when the sun is at the high point of its various cycles is generally coincides with the warmer temperatures on Earth. Similarly with the oscillations of Earth's ocean currents and other natural factors. So I taught logic for 40 years as part of being a philosophy professor. I always told my students, look at the evidence. Look at the evidence. So for instance, I quote Dr. Doug McDougall in my booklet, who's a geology professor. And geology is an important topic in this field, John, because it shows us, that the Earth is roughly 4.5 or 4.6 billion years, a billion with a B, and it has a vast climate history. And long before, billions of years, not even millions of years, billions of years before human beings ever show up in the fossil record, the Earth is cycling between colder and warmer periods. It's been going on literally for billions of years. The forces of nature, like the sun cycling and the oscillations of Earth's ocean currents and geothermal eruptions beneath the ocean floor, and various other natural forces have been causing a climate cycle for billions of years. And Professor McDougall, a geology professor, tells us that throughout much of the Earth's vast history, he says much, I don't know if he means most, but he says much, the Earth has been too warm for glaciers. There was no glaciers on Mount Kilimanjaro for a long time, John. It was too warm. For millions of years, it was too warm for glaciers. There was no glaciers at the North Pole. There were no glaciers at the South Pole. There were no glaciers on the mountain peaks. The Earth was too warm for that. This comes from a geology professor. I didn't make this up. Throughout much of the Earth's vast history, 4.5 billion years, it's been significantly warmer than it is today. We're in the midst of an ice age.
Let me ask you about the culture of modern science, which I think we do have to address, because, like I say, when I was in my early 20s, I thought everybody had some sort of basic commitment to the truth. There may be differences of opinion, but everyone was attempting to find the truth. Now that I'm in my 50s, I've concluded there are a lot of people who aren't at all interested in the truth. They're interested in advancing an agenda. Sometimes that's think tanks that are getting paid by groups that want a study that is affirmative for whatever goal they've got. Sometimes it's just really dishonest people. What's the vibe currently? Vibe is probably a light word within the scientific community, because it was really hyper aggressive about purging anyone who didn't toe the accepted line on this issue just a decade ago.
Yes, and I think to some degree it still is. But that itself is a clue to what the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, and various environmentalist organizations. It's a clue to the falsity of what they say, because people who have evidence to support their conclusions do not try to suppress dissenters. They engage in debate. They discuss. They'll disagree. They don't try and get them kicked out of their jobs at universities. They don't try to ban them from publishing in the journals. They engage in debate. Who engages in this kind of activity, trying to suppress dissent? People who, one, are committed to their conclusions on emotional grounds, not on the grounds of evidence, and therefore, two, know that their opponents have the evidence to defeat them in open debate. But I think it's horrendous that science has degenerated to that degree. But there are hopeful signs. I think there are more scientists today who are willing to speak out. William Happer, a professor of physics, Dr. Happer is a professor of physics at Princeton University. He openly said, about the AGW hypothesis, about anthropogenic global warming. He said, I can live with the term hoax, but I prefer the term scam. It's a scam. And there are more scientists willing to speak out like Professor Happer today, and that's an encouraging sign.
My theory, and because I'm in the political world and have been for so long, is that a lot of this is motivated by a Marxist,
definitely,
socialist,
absolutely right, yes,
communist movement to shut down the type of society that we have and replace it with the communist mindset by making people feel guilty about a capitalist society and a consumer society. Am I way off base about that?
No, you're absolutely right. I think a couple of points. One, look who pushes this man-made global warming claim. It's almost all leftist environmentalists. There may be a few supporters of capitalism who buy in, but overwhelmingly it's leftists, Marxists who do this, and the goal is clear. I mean, for Marxism, you want to nationalize industries, you want to abolish private property, you want to suppress freedom of speech and establish a totalitarian state. If they could convince the voters, various politicians are democratically elected, that human beings are destroying the planet by means of fossil fuel use, then they could gain control of the vital energy industry, and that's the first goal: nationalize the energy industry, and then be able to dictate to us what kind of cars we could drive, if any, how much fossil fuels we could use, if any, what kind of appliances we could use, what kind of light bulbs we have to use. They want to dictate to us, a top-down command society, which is what the communists or the Nazis do. And so, this is a Marxist. This is part of the Marxist program to control the energy industry and eventually nationalize all industries, abolish private property, and critically, you mentioned it, John, suppress freedom of speech. Remember Sheldon Whitehouse, senator from Rhode Island, about 10 years ago, he was talking about making illegal anybody who dissented from the AGW hypothesis. It would be illegal to speak in disagreement. He wanted to criminalize it. That's Marxism.
That mindset is growing everywhere, and we saw it on steroids with COVID. Different topic, but whenever somebody says you're not allowed to discuss something, and especially with social media now being run by private companies, and hypothetically, at least they can do what they want, and they start saying you're not allowed to use these words, or you're not allowed to say anything on this topic that's not approved we got a problem. And I think it's on display here. And the thing that really bothers me, Andy, is I do think most Americans, snapshot right now, most Americans, their hearts are in the right place. They don't want to be a part of something that's destructive or harmful, that does damage for generations to come. They want to be aware of the environmental impact they're having. I think that's a good instinct. And I think that's being exploited by these people. And I hate to see good people with good morals and good values exploited to effectuate bad things in the future.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. And part of that is the left controls the school system. They have for decades now. And less and less they teach students, and more they indoctrinate students. So they've been indoctrinating the kids with leftist propaganda for decades now. And part of that propaganda is man-made global warming, that human beings are destroying the planet. So more and more Americans come out of the school system, especially if they go to college and continue with more indoctrination.
Right.
There's more and more Americans who believe, all the leftist propaganda. White people are all racists. Western civilizations responsible for nothing but slavery, imperialism, racism, and such. Human beings are destroying the planet. Socialism is morally superior to capitalism. There's a lot of kids who are now adults who are indoctrinated by the school system, and even worse if they went to most of the colleges in our country today.
Yeah, and conservative thinkers are often excluded from even being on the stage to have that debate. It's a uniform way of thinking, which is the antithesis of what you would expect at an institution of higher learning. It's really disturbing. Right. I appreciate that you're always willing to talk to us, Andy.
Oh yeah, absolutely, John. It's always a pleasure. And I just said, thank God for Elon Musk, and turning Twitter into an X into a free speech platform, and exposing the Twitter files, the truth about the Biden administration, coaching or telling the social media platforms who could post on their platforms and who could not. That's censorship. So Elon Musk exposed that. Yes.
And your book would have gotten you booted off of the old Twitter really quick. The Truth About Climate Change by Andrew Bernstein. Andy, I really appreciate it. I'll talk to you again soon. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Thanks for having me on. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, okay, very good. When we come back, producer Dan will be back with me. Melania Trump has this new movie that is about to premiere. She did a debut at the White House the other night. We're going to play a clip of it. I've not seen it yet. And, I think Melania is a very interesting character who is not very well understood or examined in the modern era. We'll talk about that when we return on the Reid Revolution on this Monday. Back on the Reid Revolution on this Monday, and producer Dan joins me now, as he does at the end of every program. And you're the one who found Andy years ago when we were at WRVA together. Where'd you find him?
Oh, he and I have been friends for about 20 or so years. We met back after I finished college. He was in town to give a lecture, I think, about the dangers of Islamic fundamentalism. This was not long after 9/11, but we've followed each other since then and gotten to be pretty close over the last half dozen years or so. He's written a number of great books.
We should have him on to talk about that subject too.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And he's written a number of books about capitalism. I think the Capitalist Manifesto is one of them, which is great. But yeah, he's a really scholarly fellow who's done a lot of good work over the last.
One of the reasons that
generation.
I like the idea of doing this podcast, producer Dan, is that I can have whoever I want on the program. And I don't have any intention of bringing on crazy people or total whack jobs who lie about stuff. I'm not interested in doing that. But it has concerned me, especially the 8 years that I was on talk radio, that there's a corporate mindset, and it wasn't awful at WRVA. And my boss, I think if you listen to the radio program, he's a big Democrat from New York, disagreed with everything I had to say. To his credit, he did not ever stomp his foot and say you're fired if you have someone on. It was clear that he disagreed with some of the guests that I had on, but I could tell that there was a corporate mindset that was beginning to become concerning, at least to me, especially when the Soros investment group bought the radio station. Like, God, how are we going to navigate this going forward? I'm not there, so I don't know what the vibe is like now or what the directives are like now. But with the podcast, knock on wood, we can have anybody on that we find to be interesting and informed and credible. And I think Andy would probably be blacklisted by a lot of different folks. And, you could tell from our conversation with him, it's not like he's Mr. Superstar. I'm going to go on a national tour like Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's not trying to present himself that way. And I think you should listen. Sometimes you should listen to people who are not clamoring to be the media superstars, because maybe they're shooting straight with you in a way that the media superstars won't. It's just my instinct on it.
Well, Andy, in the best of senses, is a true academic. I mean, he is somebody who spends his time studying these things, writing about them, talking and lecturing about them. He is what academics in this country and around the world ought to be. And unfortunately,
did you find him at William and Mary?
No, actually, he came to Richmond to give this speech, and it was at an Italian restaurant. Yeah, it was an Italian restaurant off of Patterson Avenue that I think is defunct now. It's in the same shopping center as Rare Old Times, if people know where that is. But La Italia or something like that. It was an Italian restaurant, but it was a great speech, and we got connected there, and have pretty much stayed in touch ever since. But yeah,
what I also think is interesting is that you would wind up on Broad Street at L'Italia restaurant for a speech by a guy talking about content. Anyway,
that's right.
Yeah, I'm glad to be able to talk to Andy. I think he's, I remember talking to him when we were on the air at the radio station. I think that's important. Well, look, I know we're watching the clock, but I didn't want to give short shrift to some of the other folks. You had a clip from the Deputy Attorney General, Todd Blanche, from Meet the Press, kind of responding to the berserk, I think, over-the-top reaction to a horrible situation when somebody's killed. It's not like I ever revel in that. I understand in certain circumstances how it occurs, and I feel bad about it, but I'm not going to revel in it. You want to play that from Todd Blanche real quick?
Absolutely.
Very confused about why the conversation is about what you're talking about, instead of focusing on what really matters, which is why in one city, in one place do we have these problems. We deport 10 times the number of illegal aliens out of Texas than we do out of Minneapolis. Why do we hear nothing out of Texas about any of the same problems that we have in Minneapolis? I'll tell you why. Because in Texas, we have the cooperation and support of local law enforcement so that we can do these operations safely, keeping U.S. citizens and others protected and safe. That is not what we have in Minneapolis. And the fact that it's the administration that's being blamed for the utter failure of leadership in Minneapolis is not right, it's not appropriate,
and it's also not officers
true.
Yeah, that is really important for everybody to keep in mind, that this is deliberate. This chaos is deliberately planned for the public to try to manipulate the public into thinking, oh my God, this is awful. People are dying. This is crazy. Trump must be doing something wrong. Therefore, what? We got to get rid of Republicans. It's manipulating you. It is not an honest assessment of the law. It's not an honest assessment of what's happening on the ground. You are being manipulated very deliberately. And the media, which, I mean, there's a reason I'm doing this podcast instead of getting hired by CBS News to be with them. It's because they don't want to have, generally, these networks do not want a balanced assessment of what's going on. They are in the tank for these leftists. And you should be concerned when people try to manipulate your emotions to achieve political ends. And that's what's happening here. Guess who can solve the problem? The leftist Democrats who are causing the problem. If that's your conclusion, is, oh my God, the leftists are in the street, so the only way to stop the leftists from being in the street is to give the leftists political power, you're getting manipulated. Don't be fooled. Don't be rolled like that.
Yeah, and as I told you last night, I mean, I'll say it, hot take here maybe, but I really think that the feds should indict Tim Walz and Jacob Frey for what they're doing, because I think that they are actively fanning these flames and they are getting people hurt by essentially obstructing justice and preventing law enforcement from carrying out their tasks in a methodical and safe manner. This is not okay. It's not okay.
If you were the kind of person who looked at massive resistance against integration of society and said, oh my God, these Southern governors and these mayors and these crazy Democrat leaders in the South refuse to obey civil rights laws in the United States. If that was offensive to you, looking back on it, then you should be looking at this in a contemporary sense and saying, now, wait a minute, are the laws reasonable and responsible? And you're not an honest broker if you look at this and don't recognize that our immigration laws are generous, probably too generous, in my opinion, in the United States. And the deportations of people who are in a country illegally, very normal around the world. And if Tim Walz and the Democrat mayors, and quite frankly, the Democrat leaders in Virginia, starting with Abigail Spanberger, the new governor, the new attorney general, Jay Jones. I mean, I guess Ghazala Hashmi isn't directly involved in this, but she'd probably like to be because she's an agitator too. She'll be, her political career is standing in the street with a bullhorn, and now you put her in charge of the state Senate and is second in line to be governor, next in line to be governor, which I think is insane to take somebody who's a street agitator, from a foreign country and put them in charge of your state. But, that's the decision that's been made. These people are all manipulating the situation, and it's wrong to do, and it puts a lot of people in danger, and we should stand up against it. So, hey, real quick, I keep seeing on my Facebook feed and my Instagram feed this movie called Melania. Now, to be honest with you, I hate the look of it. Black with white lettering, Melania. I don't get it. I don't get that aesthetic for someone like Melania Trump, who is, even if you can't stand Donald Trump, Melania Trump's a beautiful woman. And by all accounts, she's a very intelligent woman. I don't know whether they're exaggerating when they say she can speak 5 languages. I have no idea. It's weird to me, honestly, even if you despise Donald Trump, she is the first lady of the United States. She is a supermodel. So why wouldn't people be interested in exploring her background in a non-inflammatory gotcha kind of way and do profile pieces on her? Nobody seems to want to do that. It's all trash reporting. So I'm really interested in seeing this Melania movie.
Well, yeah, especially considering the so much greater interest that at least we're told everybody has in Michelle Obama.
Oh God,
that seems like such a disparity to me. I'm at least for me, look, I'm far more interested in Melania's story. But
any first lady should be profiled. I mean, going through as the spouse of any political person is quite a journey, and you get attacked, and it takes a special person to kind of go through all of that. I mean, even if you're in the local House of Delegates, your spouse goes through hell just trying to hang on. Generally, people are mad at you. They're mad at you because of what your spouse did, husband or wife, whoever that person is. So, I mean, it would be interesting to profile a Laura Bush, a Nancy Reagan, a Barbara Bush, Michelle Obama. I think it's a stretch to put Michelle Obama on the cover of Vogue magazine and try to pretend that she's a supermodel. No offense. It's okay. I mean, if that's what you want to do. But there's this really weird effort to make Michelle Obama into a supermodel that she's not. No. I'm not criticizing her. I'm not saying, I mean, I'm not a supermodel. Wish I was, but I'm not. So, you just deal with it in life. Melania Trump is a supermodel. So the fact that they just completely diss her and have for years because of Donald Trump reveals how corrupt these people are. And I promise you, they'd sell a hell of a lot of magazines to a new audience who have money that's green if they would just put her on the cover. But they refuse to do that. So Melania's got to figure out a way to make this movie.
Am I wrong that she reduced the First Lady's staff from something like 23 assistants to 2 or 3? That Michelle Obama had something like 24 staff people working for her, and I think Melania, to her credits, that I don't need all that.
It doesn't surprise me. Melania is not going to be an activist first lady. It's obvious. No. That whole "be better" thing was, I don't know. I mean, I'm not trying to beat up on Melania Trump. I think she got pushed into doing that "be better" thing in the first term, which wasn't well thought out. I don't know. You never know whether the reporting was just weak on it, but it didn't seem like it was a very effective passion or cause for the first lady. But you know why? Just because you're married to somebody who becomes the governor or the president doesn't mean you have to have some sort of cause that now you're the poster child for that going forward. But I will tell you, having worked for the Reagans in 1993, after they left the White House, people just never stop wanting stuff from you. They want their photograph signed. They want their autographed copy of the book. They want to send you something that you really need to see. Oh my God, you need to see it. They want to tell you the story about how their grandfather met you 40 years ago and had a great conversation with you. And do you remember that? I mean, I'm not mocking people, but it just never ends. And, one of the jobs I had with the Reagans was I helped organize every day the stuff that would go to them. And I can't believe that he was 82 when I worked for him. So she was in her 70s at the time. They would sit there at night on the sofa in the living room, watching TV, autographing books, I mean, just nonstop. And I thought, God, do these people, their entire life has been either as movie stars, which, I mean, how much sympathy do you have for somebody who's a movie star? Not much. Presumably you got paid and you were a big celebrity and everybody loved you. But all these decades in public political life, and they're still in retirement, having to take care of people's desires and wants by signing books all night long. And most of the time, I can honestly say this, most of the time they didn't use an auto pen. Yeah, I mean, if it was a birthday card or something, maybe to someone they didn't even know, maybe you got the auto pen. But a lot of times the Reagans would just sit there and sign that to be nice people because they knew it really meant a lot to the people who'd supported them. I bet you that's a rare situation now. I doubt Melania is doing it. Maybe I'm wrong, but.
Well, I mean, some people really enjoy doing this too. I mean, clearly President Trump, we've both seen him in person and met him, and he was delightful to both of us when we were in his presence. But he clearly, that the public affection and all of that goes along with what he does is clearly some sort of a benign drug for him. It's a stimulant.
It does charge people up.
Yeah.
People used to say about Bill Clinton, the things that would wear down a normal person charged him up. And I had a little experience with that on the campaign trail. There were so many people being unbelievably vicious to me behind the scenes and the emails were just. Sometimes I'd open the emails, I just couldn't even believe what was being written and said to me. Anyway, it was shocking.
No, it's and now I'm experiencing it too. I mean, it's just part of doing this.
I'm not easily shocked, but the payoff is that you get to go into a room with 200 people, 300 people, and they seem genuinely excited to meet you and want to take a picture with you and tell you something that they like, or something that they agree with you and aspire to. I mean, that does. There's an adrenaline rush or something that is positive for that. So
the agony and the ecstasy.
If you're going to be successful in modern politics, you probably have to have some component. I don't see how you could be an introvert or a totally cerebral intellectual and be successful in modern politics. I just don't. The expectations of engagement are too high. Well, you want to show the Melania?
Yeah, let's do it.
And from the trailer.
All right, here we go.
Here we go again.
You can come in. Good morning. My proudest legacy will be that of peacemaker.
Peacemaker under the fire. Beautiful. Together with like-minded leaders, we have a voice. Is it safe?
It is safe.
Everyone wants to know. So here it is. Hi, Mr. President. Congratulations.
Did you watch it?
I did not. Yeah, I will see it on the news.
Well, at least she's honest.
That one little interaction that makes me want to see the rest of that engagement. Oh, I did not see the speech. I'm gonna watch it on the news.
I'm busy. Making dinner. That's funny.
Or looking through fashion magazines. I don't know. The whole thing seems interesting. I don't expect Melania Trump to be some sort of crazy activist. I don't think that's what she wants to be. But I think she's an interesting character. She's certainly a part of American history. I'm really curious about this movie. And I guess I'll plunk down $12, whatever, $18 that it costs to see a movie now and go see it. And behind the scenes, listen, if somebody had taken a camera around behind the scenes just on my little campaign for lieutenant governor, you'd have a blockbuster. I'm going to keep it clean. The stuff that happened, the insanity of things that people said to my face, and the good moments of people you meet that just moves you or makes you want to cry. I mean, this is really compelling stuff. And then throw in the fact that they're a family that's, I guess, close to being billionaires, with Mar-a-Lago, which is such a very unique place, and Trump Tower, which will always occupy a historic part of Manhattan history, American history. I'm really very interested in seeing the film. I'm sure it's not a nasty film, and it won't reveal anything that's negative. But who cares? This is more of a look through the peephole than you've gotten any other time.
Well, they've spared little expense, if any. I know the director of the film is Brett Ratner, who, if people say to themselves, well, who's Brett Ratner?
Who is he?
He directed the Rush Hour movies with Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan, did one of the original X-Men films.
So how did he get involved in this?
Well, he has an interesting backstory if you've paid attention to what's been going on in the last 10 years in Hollywood.
And I couldn't care less.
He was sort of one of the casualties of Me Too, rightly or wrongly, but this movie sort of represents a bit of a climbing back up the mountain for him, that he's coming back into the work out there. And it's just interesting that he's associated with this, and what that may say about his maybe political leanings at this point. I don't know, but yeah, he'd been kind of ostracized for a while.
Anybody who's been screwed over anybody who's been screwed over by the system, anybody who has had powerful people lie about them and mistreat them in public and has just, been left with the wreckage of lies and or innuendo that is destructive, I gotta believe that there are a lot of people in this society who can't bring themselves to say it, who say, thank God Donald Trump fought back against the people who went after him with the lies. Now, I mean, I'm not delusional. I don't think Donald Trump is Mother Teresa. I don't think he's some super Mr. Nice guy. But that at this stage, when the country is about to collapse, I'm not looking for Mr. Nice guy. We'll pick Mr. Nice guy later to fix the damage that the leftists are doing. I need somebody to fight the leftists right now, and I think he's doing it. And the fact that they went after him so viciously, and other people have been victims, and then we find out later, the Duke fraternity guy, the Duke lacrosse team didn't rape that girl, and this person didn't sexually harass this person, and this person didn't do what they were accused of doing. We just ran with the headline, trashed their life, and left them, to die.
Yep.
And
a lot of lies
finally,
out
we've
there.
got a billionaire. We got a billionaire who has the resources to hire a team of lawyers to fight back and use the system to eviscerate the liars. I think there are probably a lot of people who would say, you know what, I may not be a right-wing conservative, but there's value in that. I suspect. And only after, if we survive as a country, and I do think that's an if at this point. I hate to say that, but God, with the behavior of so many people, I think we got a real problem on our hands. If we survive, I think you'll find out that there were a lot of people who were secretly, privately hoping that this machine of lies and hostility can be defeated. This is my instinct on it.
Well, I'll make it aside just to say, on the subject of Brett Ratner movies, I'll recommend one to people who may be stuck at home in the snow. The Family Man, 2000's The Family Man, starring Nicolas Cage and Téa Leoni, has a beautiful Danny Elfman score. But if you've never seen The Family Man, check it out. Worth your time.
Producer Dan will always give you the movie reference and who wrote the score for the film. I do. Dan, it's one of the things that I think is very interesting about you, because I know no one else out of all the people I've worked with and known in my life who would have those things as the reference points, and that's just interesting to me. So, good for you.
And our good friend Jim Herring says L'Italia was an awesome place to eat back in the day. So yes, so yes, thanks Jim for the shout out and for the mention of L'Italia. So.
All right. Well, I'm going to leave you guys to the ice and the snow. I should be back at midnight tonight, I guess, if I'm lucky, or unlucky in Richmond. And I'm going to get out in the sun for a couple hours here in Fort Lauderdale and go check and make sure my flight is actually leaving to get me back to Richmond. And we will do this all again tomorrow morning, Dan, on the Reid Revolution. Indeed. Make sure you follow us and give us a big thumbs up and a review. You find us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, on X, and on Facebook. It's always very helpful if you can give us a like and give us a good review, and we will be back tomorrow morning. Thanks so much, Dan.
Yep, absolutely.
See you guys.